And so thank you for joining us for session 6. In IELCE IET, Grayla is going to give you a brief overview of the program requirements, the funding restrictions, and everything else that you might need to know as you are planning your fiscal 21 IELCE IET program. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Grayla.
Thank you, Ellen. And thank you all for attending this session. So during this session, I'm going to interchange the terms IELCE IET and WIOA 243. They mean the same exact thing. So we're going to talk about what IELCE IET is, what is the purpose of WIOA 243. We'll talk about the required components of IELCE, the required components of IET, the obligations and restrictions, or some of them, and then some final thoughts that I have, and then we will have time for questions. So the IELCE IET is section 243 of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act under subtitle D. WIOA was signed into federal law on July 22nd of 2014. So it is a federal program. Okay. Next slide, please. So IELCE is specific to English language learners. So that would include any professionals with credentials or degrees from their native country. It includes the concurrent delivery of literacy and English language acquisition, citizenship, civic participation, and of course, workforce activities. IELCE is designed for learners who have lives that do not allow for years of sequential acquisition of the mastering of the English language. And then after they master English, they can go into a pre-GED or GED program. They earn their high school credential. Maybe they still need some developmental education. Then they can enter post-secondary education. And then after that, maybe they can go into some industry training. So it's designed to kind of just cut that sequential delivery of this service to get them into the workplace in an expedited manner. Next slide, please. So the program design is to meet the goals of being rigorous, high quality education and training. It is a program in and of itself. It's designed to accelerate the educational and career advancement of individuals. And then it is also equipped to advance learners within a specific occupation or occupational cluster. So you may have learners in your program who are already working. They may be working in the field that they want to have a career in, but they can't advance because they lack the English language skills or they lack some of the academic skills that they need in order to move up in that career. The other thing that you need to take into consideration is, do you have a high level of learner interest in the IELCE and also the IETs that you are offering? So even though it might be an occupation that has been determined to be in demand, if you don't have a high level of learner interest, that might not be a good training for you to offer to your population that you have there. Next slide, please. So the required components of IELCE are the English language acquisition. You'll see that literacy is listed here. So it's reading and writing skills that your learners are going to need. The rights and responsibilities of citizenship and civic participation. So we want to make sure that these are actually offered all concurrently and contextualized. So what I mean by, can we go back to that slide for a minute, to the IELCE? Thank you. So what I mean here is, when you're talking about IELCE, it does not have to be contextualized to what you're offering in your IET, but it should be contextualized to the American workplace, the American systems of government, and these are all delivered concurrently. If you run your program as you would a My Best program and you have cohorts, you can further contextualize your IELCE component for a specific occupation or occupational cluster, because all of those students will be together in both the IELCE and the IET. But you can certainly have students in your IELCE that do not take part in your IET. So once again, for IET, it is required that you provide access to the educational, integrated educational training. Your students do not have to take part in that IET because it may not be a career field that they want to go into, but it must be there for them to take advantage of. Next slide, please. So the components of the IET are adult education and literacy. So once again, you're seeing there's adult education and literacy that must take place in your IET also. And that would be your reading, writing, math, speaking English, communicating as it pertains to the content training that's in the IET, okay? Workforce preparation is basically your employability skills. At one point, we refer to these as soft skills, but they really are employability skills, which includes critical thinking, teamwork, how to be proactive in learning the skills that they need in order to be a team player in the workforce. And then you have your workforce training, which is your content training. And we talked a little bit about this the other day when I talked about IET. So that content training can be provided with Title II dollars, but really the intent is that you would have partners, either Title I or an employer, an industry partner, someone who really understands the industry and can help guide that training so that your participants will meet the requirements that are needed to get at least entry-level positions and then to move up in that training. It's also important to have that partner so that as you're designing your program, you will have your learners trained exactly the way the industry needs them to be, and that will also give them better opportunities for employment after they complete the training. Your training needs to support the local workforce development board. And one of the things that I'd like to stress is that it needs to be, your IET needs to be a part of a career pathway. It is not just about getting your learners a job. Next slide, please. So I want to talk a little bit about the obligations and restrictions. So programs who receive the IELCE funding or WIOA 243 funds must ensure that students in the IELCE component have access to an IET. The students in the IELCE component must be informed of the workforce training opportunities that are available to them. WIOA 243 funds may be used to fund the IET, but once again, it is preferred that you find a partner who will fund that training for you because it is a better use of your funds that you receive. And it also helps you to have a better quality program. WIOA 243 funds may not be used at any time to fund ABE, ASE, or any other non-ESL learners. So I know that some programs are proposing to combine students in their IET, which is permissible, but you will need to be able to document and divide your funds to ensure that you are not paying for any ABE, ASE, or non-ESL learners that are in that IET. Once again, if you have a partner who is paying the cost of your IET, you do not have to worry about that. They can pay for any of the learners who are in that participating in your IET. IELCE also is not a bridge into the IET. So in some of the proposals, it appeared that there was a little bit of confusion about IELCE leading into an IET. It is its own separate component and therefore is not considered a bridge into an IET. And I know that some of you in your colleges or in your programs refer to these as bridge classes, and that's fine. We understand that you all have your own titles within your organization that must be met, but we want to make sure that you understand that IELCE does not bridge a learner into an IET. You can have IET bridge classes, and we do allow for funding for that. The funding for that is limited because we want the majority of your funds to be used for the actual IET and the IELCE components of the program. But we do allow for 25 to 30% of your total funding to be used for bridge classes into the IET, which are to prepare learners who may lack the English language skills or the academic skills that they will need in order to be successful in the actual training component. So please keep that in mind. All right, next slide. So the final thoughts here are, even though your program may have been approved to receive IELCE IET funding, that does not necessarily mean that we have approved your proposed program. So we will be talking to programs to try to get clarification on some things that we are unsure about, what you meant and what you're actually doing. And we may require you to make some adjustments or revisions to your proposal. Once again, we will be getting the IET planning document to you, so that will give you some assistance in really looking at your program, making sure that you have all of the required components and that you have all the pieces in place before you begin to run your programs. And we will be getting the document to you that explains what the single set of learning objectives is supposed to be and what we mean by that. So at this time, if you have questions about any parts of the IELCE or the IET or how this program works in general, I will be happy to take your questions. So you can either unmute or you can write them in the chat.
Thanks, Grayla. I'll keep an eye on the chat box.
Okay.
So a question from Angel. She just wants to clarify that I wasn't interested in combining ESL and GED students. I just wanted to make sure that the same occupational clusters that we have established for IELCE, IET could also be planned for non-ESL students.
Yes, yes, that's true. You can do that. So thank you for that clarification, Angel.
And a question from Emma Wilson. If the local contribution pays for the IET, can ASE, ABE students participate in the program?
Yes, they can participate in the IET portion of the program because you're not using designated funds to pay for students who are not covered under that funding line. So yes, you can do that. Okay, well, it appears that everyone has a clear understanding of the program and how it works. Of course, should you think of something later after this presentation, you can email me and ask your question there, and I will be happy to answer that. But as I stated, we will be in touch with programs to help give them guidance and to get clarification on their programs, and we will be providing those guideline documents to you in order to help you further plan your IELCE IET program.
I'm laughing at Dawn's comment. Dawn says, well, my silence does not mean I have a clear understanding, but looking forward to communicating with you to firm up the structure that is approved.
Thank you. Would be happy to do that, Dawn. Looking forward to meeting with you also.
Ellen and Grayla, this is Terry. Is it okay for me just to ask a question or?
Sure.
Of course.
Yeah, and Grayla, I appreciate this presentation. I pick out something new or pick up something new each time I hear an IELCE presentation. This is probably, I'm only involved on the financial side, and I do trust Grayla and Ellen 100% as they oversee the programmatic aspects of this. This is probably the most difficult part of our job. I think, when we look at all of the program operations because of the intricacies involved, not just in the program, but even the separate section of WIOA Title II and the various provisions that are required that are different. We can't commingle funds even at the state level. We get no leadership dollars for IELCE. So I appreciate what the team is able to do with such limited resources to do this at this level. And again, kudos to Grayla for this. Based on what Dawn was saying, and then there was another comment, I'm sorry, I was toggling there, Deneen as well, saying I agree. One of the things I think we need to do, and perhaps even as a state, we need to get better at asking you where the gaps are from knowledge share, or perhaps what's missing from really understanding IELCE. What can we do better to get those questions answered? Is it showing examples of what works and what doesn't work? The do's and don'ts, that are a little bit more explicit that way. Why I want to throw out that carrot or offering is that other states, and again, in Manhattan Strategy, actually went to Grayla asking these questions, and Grayla has this knowledge. I think that can be shared, but I want to ensure that we're doing our part to offer a little bit better, if I may use that expression, way of communicating this. When this began, I was thinking initially, oh my, we need a glossary, because people see IELCE, people see IET. Unfortunately, these terms have been used interchangeably, and we know that's not the case. But I just feel like if there are questions going into the fourth year of this, even let's call it the third real year, because the first year was a write-off for all the states, I just feel like we need to get more clarification for you, and I'll take that on and ensure that we do a better job of that. And Dawn, I'm seeing you're popping up something now that I'm trying to read real time. It is, and so I appreciate that comment, and so maybe the focus needs to be on that. I don't know. I just feel like there's not as solid clarity on this as there are the other programmatic aspects, and I just want to be sure that whatever resources we have at our disposal, and Octave has at its disposal, that we're getting this stuff out to you, and potentially even, Dawn, in your case, to your partners, so that it softens the blow for you. So again, just a rambling thought, but I just wanted to offer that as a takeaway for me.
Thank you, Terry. We are certainly open to specific questions that programs have. One of the things that we want to make sure is when you offer the integrated educational training, there are some things that are very successful. There may not be a demand for jobs in your area in that. So you can offer this really great IET training, but you don't have the area support or the area employers or industry demand in your area to run that. So that's one of the reasons why we can make suggestions of things that have worked, but we don't want to get into the position of seeming like we're dictating that these programs work and you need to run one of them, because it may not work in your area. But certainly we can provide for you trainings that are successful, that are in demand, and we can look more into that for programs who are interested in receiving that information.
And the last thing I would offer, and I really appreciate and agree 100% with Ellen's approach of changing work groups, which is really an outdated term these days, to a center of a community of practice. And I do think that perhaps this is an area for us to be more innovative in what we do by way of a knowledge share across programs, and give us the opportunity to really make it a community of practice, so that it's not one-way information channeling out, but rather information channeling to and from, and then sounded like I was ready to sing the national anthem there. But so I just think that, this might be an opportunity for us to explore how to take one of these community of practices and perhaps put a different angle to it, so that we can get, some of these best practices shared, because I think the programs who are doing this very well are doing it very well. And then there are some programs that still need some help. And the concerning thing for me is just, and again, I got to take COVID out, right? Some things have changed the last quarter of this fiscal year. But when we've got programs returning 50% of their funding, their IELCE funding, at the end of the year, that's a concern to me. And I'd rather get those best practices shared across programs, so that we don't have programs returning money, they're spending it, so that they're putting that money to use for Marylanders that can benefit from it. So that's my last comment. And again, I appreciate everybody giving me a few minutes here. And again, Grayla, kudos to you for this.
Thank you. So I think there have been more comments in the chat. Ellen, I don't know if there are any questions that we need to address at this time, or if they're just comments.
Primarily they're comments. There was a question from Sarah at Prince George's. Will the state provide any support on how to move through COVID with IELCE, IET classes? If we can't offer hands-on training this year, we might need support or ideas on what types of programs we can offer online.
We will certainly be taking that into consideration. At this point in time, of course, no one knows when or how we'll be able to get learners back to a face-to-face position. But as we learn more through guidance through Octave, and as we kind of try to work around this, we certainly will be trying to think of creative ways that programs can offer the IET. Certainly your IELCE, I believe that all of the components of that can be offered through distance learning. It is the IET that will cause the difficulty, and we will certainly be looking at that and trying to come up with ways for you to offer those creatively. We will also take into account that if you cannot meet face-to-face, you cannot do a face-to-face content training. So we will keep our eyes open and our ears open to your questions and concerns, and we'll be looking for ways to help you through that. Okay, I think if there's nothing else, once again, thank you all for your participation. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your support of us as we try to support you and as we try to work through all of these details to help you offer effective programs to your learners.